So we're going to jump in now to our final keynote of the day. Make sure you stick around because at the end, after she's done, we have a whole bunch of swag that she brought from Pepsi to give away. We've got the raffle winners. We've got the NFT drop that already happened for you. So make sure you stick around at the end. So we've got coming to the stage Kate Brady from PepsiCo. She's going to be talking about next-gen connections, onboarding brands into Web3. She is the leader of next-gen direct-to-consumer connections and innovation, and her team is responsible for creating value and enabling consumer centricity through current and next-generation platforms. So please welcome Kate Brady to the stage.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here today. I know you mentioned earlier that the lull happens around 2 hours post-lunch, and we're a little past that, so hopefully you're still awake. And I know I'm the last thing between whatever your evening plans are, so hopefully I can keep you entertained and informed through the next 25 minutes or so, and hopefully we'll have some time for some Q&A afterwards. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is how we at PepsiCo are onboarding our phenomenal portfolio of brands into Web3. I have had the fortune of working at PepsiCo for over 13 years now, spent the previous decade on the media agency side of things, but have always been an innovator at heart. I had the privilege of leading global media innovation across PepsiCo for the past 4 years and really went down the rabbit hole about a year and a half ago into the Web3 space. About 8 months ago, we stood up a brand new team within our organization called our Next Gen D2C team, which I have the privilege of leading our connections and innovation pillar. And as a part of that, our goal is really about innovating ways to directly connect with our consumers, creating more smiles with every sip, bite, and click. And the mission statement for our actual team, our Next Gen D2C Connections and Innovation team, is really about growing consumer lifetime value by identifying, developing, scaling new capabilities and solutions to enhance and enable two-way connections across all consumer touchpoints. And now that's not exclusive to these existing touchpoints. We know that there's a lot of traditional ways that we're connecting with our consumers, but what are those new opportunities? And that's what really brings us into the Web3 space and beyond. And so to do this, our team is really charged with propelling next-gen D2C products and solutions through new ideas, technology, innovative thinking, and in partnership with our brands and markets. So our team is that direct liaise to the marketing organization, but also all of the different sectors of our business across PepsiCo. And going left to right, there are 3 distinct areas that we're focused on. One being consumer engagement innovation products. Where we are charged with identifying these new solutions to really leverage the data that we have to power better consumer connections, identifying, designing, and piloting these new technology solutions across the organization to try and embed them into what we're doing. Global loyalty and rewards. You've heard a lot about rewards today and loyalty today if you've been a part of these sessions. You're going to hear a lot of common themes, which is great, I think, because hopefully it means that we're consistent, and I think repetition is key to learning. But loyalty rewards is something that we think is going to be a huge way for us to power those ongoing connections and drive consumer value in the future. What we're working towards is how do we find and unify our efforts across a common global tech stack versus siloed efforts so that we can really create those ongoing connections. And then last but not least, and what I'm here to talk about today, is our Web3 COE. And there we are really charged with helping onboard and shepherd our organization into this new territory, but also providing the governance to ensure that we're doing this managing any risk associated and in a compliant way. But all 3 of these, and what is really the core objective of our team, is fueling our CDP and network activation. We see all of these areas as key enablers to collecting better zero and first-party data so that we can build these deeper connections, more personalized connections in the future. So today I'm going to talk to you about Web3 and how we're working in the Web3 space and we see the value. But before that, I wanted to go back in time a little bit.
Oh, that's
That little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At?
See, that's what I said. Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh. Well, Allison should know.
What
do you
is
think of that,
internet
Allison?
anyway? What do you mean? How does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
If somebody was to put the question to you about the magnitude of what you think you've launched, how big do you think your product or your service is?
Well, it's impossible to tell. When we first launched, we were hoping for, maybe 400, 500 people. And now we're at 100,000 people, so who knows where we're going next. We're hoping to have many more universities by fall, hopefully over 100 or 200. And from there, we're going to launch a bunch of side applications, which should keep people coming back to the site and maybe can make something cool.
Do you know what that big announcement is today with the iPod? Does anybody know what that is?
What is it?
I don't know. They're speculating an iPhone, that you're going to be able to talk on the phone with your iPod.
You know what?
Tell us why it's a bad idea. It's like the computer, it'll never take off.
What are you going to do? Carry the phone? You carry the phone over here, carry the iPod over there, carry the thing between you.
One thing.
One device.
It's the
It's
one thing.
ridiculous. So many things to carry. That's the idea. It's one device. It's an iPod and a phone. No,
So it's amazing to think that that first clip was less than 30 years ago, and to see how far we've come in the past few years is really amazing, and to think about the progression that we're going to see and how quickly things are adopting now. I think it's a key driver of why we think Web3 is going to take off at a much more rapid pace. That first clip that Katie was trying to figure out what the @ symbol was about was really talking about the Web 1 space, or the first iteration of the internet. And that was really that global library type of model, that read-only. When you heard Mark Zuckerberg talking about his 100,000 Facebook users, was when we were starting to evolve into that read-write, so really being able to have your own input into it. And what we're approaching now is the Web 3 space, where it is more blockchain-enabled, decentralized space, that you're putting the ownership back into the user's hands. And it's something that we are in the very, very early stages like we were in all of those different clips. So I think it's really critical to take notice of that now, and that there's an opportunity for us to lean in and grow with it as it evolves. But we do see that there's a huge opportunity here. Morgan Stanley quoted 8 trillion opportunity in the open marketplace. This was about a year ago, so curious to see if this number actually still stands, given some of the news of late. But we still think that there are early indicators that suggest Web3 is going to have a massive disruption to the actual shift of the internet in the future. Some of those cues that we're seeing is just from a relevance and attitude perspective. When you look at the Google trends, the query history between Web3 from 2021 to 2022 increased 16-fold. That was 5 times the number of searches for Justin Bieber in that same time frame. So people are interested, they're looking into it. We're also seeing that almost 2/3 of people who were surveyed actually did say they want to participate in a metaverse type of experience. When thinking about institutional change, the 195 countries out there, almost more than half, almost 60%, are actually starting to experiment in crypto. Obviously, the US is having some challenges, especially after the past couple of weeks, but there are some markets that are really adopting this. And so I think it's very important, while PepsiCo is not participating in crypto at this point, we are exploring it. We're trying to understand what would need to happen to be able to enact in that, because when all of the countries are taking off, we want to be ready to be able to accept that and work through it. From a technology shift perspective, there is advancements happening daily between protocols and technology advancements. We're seeing better transparency, better security, better usage of NFTs for trading. We're also seeing R&D budgets continue to be growing in here. And I think with the massive surge we're seeing in the generative AI space will only propel a better adoption and a quicker pace for some of the things that we're still seeing need to be worked on. I know we've heard a couple of panels today talk about better UI, better UX, better wallet solutions. I think the investments going into this space are all charged with really trying to drive this forward, and I'm very optimistic that that will happen. One of the biggest signals that I see, though, is when you look at the blockchain gaming space. We all see gaming as a critical foundation to driving this forward. That Currently, and this is blockchain gaming, in 2022, $4.6 billion was spent in digital assets within this space. The expectation is that by the year 2027, that will grow to almost $70 billion at a 70.3% year-over-year CAGR. That is a massive increase. And I do firmly believe that gaming is what is going to drive this entire space forward. And so that's another area that we're leaning heavily into. But so why for PepsiCo? Why do we think that this is really going to be an important driver of the work that we're doing in the future? We do really believe that Web3 has the power to revolutionize the way that PepsiCo goes to market, connects with our consumers in much more deeper and meaningful ways in the future. We also recognize that the traditional media landscape has been and is continuing to become increasingly more fragmented, more difficult to connect with who our future consumers are, especially those Gen Z and Gen Alphas. They're not watching TV. They're not listening to traditional radio. They're not even watching any social feeds. So a lot of those dollars are going to be wasted if that's who we're trying to reach. But Web3 is someplace that we do know that the Gen Z and Gen Alpha audiences are leaning into, and especially from a gaming perspective, that is where they're leaning into. So this is a massive opportunity for us to form those deeper connections. When we think about community, we've heard about community all day as well. There's ways through this. By providing, with Web3, you're putting the control back in the user. You're getting that ownership aspect of things. That is something that is going to propel a stronger, richer community and drive that more affiliation that people want to share their love and their fandom of these brands. We know that through loyalty programs, within Web 2, they're not being served with a lot of the advantages that we know Web 3 can offer. When you talk about things like tokenized rewards or token-gated experiences and that ownership aspect, that's something that can be shared from an interoperability perspective. Those are really interesting things that we are very eager to start leaning into. And then lastly, we know Web3 cookies we know that third-party cookies are going to be, are being deprecated. They're going to be going away. It is something that we need to plan for. But we see the wallet as the new cookie, essentially. I mean, this is an open protocol where you can have an anonymous information, but understand a lot of great insights of who these users are, what their affinities are, what they've experienced, what they're going to be experiencing. And if you can connect that to a first-party data record, the treasure trove of information that you can make and build a deeper relationship, a more personalized relationship with these people is really unimaginable. We see, that this is something that should be amplifying efforts. When we're thinking about Web3, we don't want them to be these one-off siloed events, these just for PR. When we talk to our brands, if your sole KPI is to drive buzz and PR impressions, that's not something that we want to support. How is this going to enhance your overall campaign? How is this incremental to your roadmap that's really driving a better experience for your consumers? What is the value that Web3 is bringing to you? And so it's critical, but we do see this as a channel, not a campaign initiative that can amplify your efforts across the board. So to bring this to life within PepsiCo, we have formed our Web3 COE. Now, we are very careful not to call ourselves a center of excellence. We are a center of enablement. And the reason for that is Web3 is still new. We're still learning. I'm still learning. My team is still learning. But we have built an amazing but very small group of people who are a mix of native Web3 developers or strategists, but also some digitally driven PepsiCo natives who know how to navigate our very complex matrix organization to bring to life some of these efforts. And our mission is really about transforming how we're going to take these D2C, and when I say D2C, it's not just about commerce, it's really about consumer engagement, experiences, by identifying, developing, and scaling new ways to connect with our consumers through this technology. The way that we're doing this is really focused on educating our PepsiCo organization through webinars, through 101s, through just ongoing thought papers. By shepherding our brand activations, we work in deep partnership with some really great agency partners that help us bring these to life, work across the entire portfolio of brands to say, okay, what is the right swim lane for each of these brands? Because we also want to make sure that we're not cannibalizing on each other's efforts. We go through from a post-analysis, but also from a vendor recommendation and partner recommendation, and we're auditing the space. And the fact that this team is really dedicated to Web3 means that they are the feet on the street that are really leaning in, that are understanding what's coming, what is the news, what do we need to be aware of, what should we be thinking about to move forward. And I'm really pleased to say that through this effort, we have launched over 20 pilots to date. We have done this across the globe. As I mentioned, my team works across all markets, all brands. So what a luxury for me. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better group or portfolio of brands to be able to work on. In addition to that, and I give credit to Sandy Carter, if any of you have known her or listened to her, but she works at Unstoppable Domains and coined the term rabbit team. And taking of the mindset of going down the rabbit hole to educate yourself and lean in, but also moving at a rabbit's pace and being agile. And so we have found an amazing group of people within our organization, and I guarantee you that there are those same people in your organizations that are passionate about this space, that want to lean in, that wanted to take action and learn and help bring this to life. And so we've instated this rabbit team meeting that we're meeting every 4 to 6 weeks to bring the new news, to share insights, to share learning, and to also champion brand activations across the portfolio to find what are the next things that we want to focus on. And last but most importantly is working with our legal team. So you've also heard a lot today, if you've been listening through, about the challenges with the lack of regulation that we are seeing in this space, or even with the current lawsuits that the SEC has brought over the past couple of weeks. There is still a lot of things that we're trying to work through, and we don't have a lot of clarity on it. And so when this started, I had weekly connects with our legal team, which was a little painful, and I got beat up a lot. But we've gotten to a place where we have a very robust questionnaire for any activation that we plan on doing, that we go through like a checklist to say, okay, is this going to be from a risk mitigation perspective? Does this feel okay, or is this something that we need to think a bit more about? But all of this, is an ongoing effort, and it's going to continue for probably some time. Now here's a quick snapshot of some of the activations that we've launched to date, and there is more to come in here, but I unfortunately can't share those details just yet. But a few I wanted to highlight for you. First, starting with our Gatorade Player of the Year activation. This is something that we launched last summer, and it is our first but only paid activation. So we worked with our great partners at Vayner3 to bring this to life, leverage the One of platform, where we commemorated these amazing 12 athletes that were recognized as Gatorade Players of the Year with their own digital collectible. We sold these digital collectibles in packs of 3. The profits and on both primary and secondary sales for these collectibles, we then gave to charity. GoodSports.Inc. was a partner of ours. So this was an amazing opportunity for us to start testing the waters with what is the feel about this? How do we amplify an event that was already happening? How do we address our philanthropic goals and really help set that? And try some new technology. And so this was a great win for us. Through this, we were able to also generate some significant first-party records, which is something that we're always looking to do. The next one that I want to walk you through is our Frito-Lay Pass the Ball Challenge. So as of this past year, we took over as the official snack of the FIFA World Cup. This was big news for us. Those guys down in Atlanta have the beverage rights, so it's been hard for us to not be able to play in this space. So we're really thrilled to be able to have the rights to FIFA this past year, and we're excited about this initial Men's World Cup. And so we launched this gamified sweepstakes that allowed you to create your own NFT on this hexagon. You were able to take a selfie. You were able to mint your own NFT that served as your collectible participating in this. Recognized your fandom, so you were able to showcase and put your fandom into this giant mosaic soccer ball that you could then explore and see who are the other fans in there. We had some of our celebrity talent participating as well, but it was really great ways to showcase the power of all of these people uniting behind football. Through this effort, we were able to have over 100,000 faces on this massive soccer ball. So from consumer engagement, people were really thrilled. This is something that I have in my own wallet now, minted on Polygon. It was a great thing it's a great little collectible for me. But in addition to that, we had over 1 million entries into our sweepstakes. And because this was a gamified experience and because we had that first-party data, we were able to come back and continue to connect with this audience. And those fans were returning on a daily basis. So we were thrilled with that, and we're exploring what we're going to be doing around the Women's World Cup. In addition to that, digital collectibles isn't the only area that we've been exploring. We've also been looking into the immersive space and activating it from an immersive space perspective. We've looked at different platforms to provide these unique experiences for our consumers, whether it's watch parties, leveraging VR headsets for activations, or creating music with avatars like what we just launched with Pepsi in in April for our Hispanic efforts. But one I wanted to highlight now is Cheetos. And I think there's a pointer on here. So you can see Chester here. Hopefully you're familiar with Chester Cheetah. He's our mischievous mascot for the Cheetos brand. And we created an activation within the Horizon Worlds platform. So it's a VR experience. It was launched around Halloween. Within this experience, you were able to take spray paint. If you didn't know, the Cheetos dust is called Cheetle. So you were able to spray paint Cheetle around this experience. There was a graveyard. If you went into the graveyard, you could actually see some of our retired flavors. You were able also to vote to resurrect some of those retired flavors. And through that, you were able to collect a POAP for your participation or a proof of attendance protocol, and have that as a collectible to showcase your fandom in here. So for Cheetos fans, if you have any in here, you should be happy to know that Chipotle Ranch will be resurrected at some point for a brief period. But it was a great experience where we had over so I said PR is not the only activation, should never be the only KPI here, but this was one that generated some amazing buzz for us. We had over 640 million impressions with this activation. But we also were able to generate significant first-party records. And the people that got our POAP, 31% of them actually minted them on their ETH wallet. So and that's a process for anyone who's a bit familiar with that space. The next one, the next case study I just wanted to walk you through, and I'm going to let the video do the talking, is for our Call of Duty Mountain Dew Subliners watch party. And this is an experience that probably my favorite one that we've done to date. It was in Decentraland, and this is where we really took something that was on our roadmap, an in-real-life experience that we were doing regardless if Web3 was around, but through Web3, we were able to amplify this experience, extend our audience significantly, provide people really strong ownership and engagement as a component of this. And we have fans now that we're able to continue to connect with and build that relationship to foster future growth.
Get ready, Dew Nation. We're heading to the metaverse.
The Mountain Dew NYSL Metaverse Watch Party.
For the first time ever, Mountain Dew hosted an esports watch party event featuring the Call of Duty League Major 4 tournament. To offer fans a more immersive experience, we built a completely interactive world, so you can watch the madness in Major 4 right from the metaverse.
This is the most important match of both of these teams' entire seasons.
With unique wearables, interactive mini-games, and amazing prizes, we had the community going crazy. We took over King's Theatre to give Call of Duty League fans at the Major 4 tournament a hands-on experience with the virtual activation, and it was epic.
Here in Decentraland with Flydra, my character's customized and I can walk around. And there's other players that I can interact with here too. Anyone can watch them anywhere.
It's pretty cool how you get to like walk around, you can get up close to the screen and stuff. This Mountain Dew booth is fire, bro.
Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say, I got him picking up the pieces. Moving fast, already gone. Yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog. Just let me relax.
So hopefully you enjoyed that video. I think it's a great capture of what we did and speaks to when you think about our traditional media buys, we're putting money, how much money into social media to get maybe a point, half a second to 1 second to maybe 2 second registration of that content. 14 minutes on average in this space where people were deeply involved, deeply engaged. The wearables that you see here, and there are a collection of a few different wearables, people continue to wear those throughout Decentraland, but it's also something they own. So if they wanted to, they could sell it and make a profit on them for them. So that's a benefit to them as a fan of Dew. But I heard today another panelist talking about the fact that these people were leveraging these assets and showcasing their fandom, showcasing their loyalty, or their appreciation of the brand well beyond that activation. And this is something that I think brought that to life really well for us. But all of these activations, all of the ones that are on this screen, all delivered on that goal of driving more first-party data for us, which fueling our CDP to help us better personalize our future communications with them. But all of these were amazing and great activations to work on. Obviously, it was a challenge to get there. And there are a myriad of issues that we're working through on a daily basis that probably still don't have the same impact in Web 2. We have not figured all of this out yet, but we are actively pursuing it. We heard today, and you heard if you've been following the news about the SEC coming down on Coinbase and some of the other chains and delistings, and Robinhood has delisted about 50 of those altcoins. PepsiCo is not really leaning into the crypto space right now, but on that same token, we don't have any regulation on NFTs as securities, and that is a big challenge for us because until we have that clarity, it is going to make it really difficult for us to be able to do what we know we could do in this space and the opportunity that presents itself. So we're working with our legal team to say, okay, what are the things, it's like a puzzle, like what can I do, how do I work around this, if this is okay, maybe I do this, and so it's a lot of debate, which is hence why I get beat up by my legal team every month. But it's a fun challenge to try and work through it, but I'm hopeful that there will be some more official regulation to provide that clarity so that we can really do what we know what this space could allow. From a tax perspective, if the transaction exceeds a certain amount, you have to provide a 1099. I don't think a lot of brands are thinking about this or doing this to date, but it's something that is on our radar. When we did our first drop, the Pepsi Genesis collection, it started trading for several $1,000s, even though it was a free mint. But for us to offer the ones we had in reserve became a challenge for us because to offer that up, because the value was in excess of that $600, they needed a 1099. That's a difficult conversation to have if you want to offer someone a free asset. From a sanctions perspective, we have to ensure that the NFTs that we're dropping are not going to users who are in a sanctioned country. So those are things that we have to be very mindful of. When we talk about IP, we just need to make sure that our IP isn't being misused, but also the IP that we're leveraging is authentic. Permanence. So the blockchain is forever. So what we put out there is there forever in perpetuity. So we need to make sure that those activations that we're launching, we really feel like are the best that we want to put out there because there's no pullback, there's no redo and being able to fix it and course correct. Obviously, there's some course correcting that you can do on the back end, but what you're submitting is there. From a sustainability perspective, I think the ETH merge really helped in that light, but I do think that there's still something that we have to be very mindful of. PepsiCo has a very strong sustainability and positive agenda that we call Pep Positive. It's something that we're very mindful of as we go into any of these actions. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad actors out there, so when looking at both money laundering and fraud and theft, those are things that we need to be mindful of. From From a privacy perspective, we have to be thinking about how is this complying with GDPR, CCPA regulations, and making sure that there is the right opt-in, opt-out language if we want to remarket or reconnect with these consumers moving forward. So I think, unfortunately for me, from a massive organization like ours, these are things that we have, my legal team likes to say we have zero risk tolerance. It is about how do we comply or structure ourselves to comply with the risk. And then lastly, from an accounting perspective, Web3 lacks the integration into our traditional accounting channels, so we just need to make sure that we've set ourselves up for that. And so those are things that we're exploring. So, not to be Debbie Downer on this page, but there's still a lot that we're trying to work through. So I think it's really important that you're conscious of these things as you go into your space. But there are some areas that we are hyper-focused on as we move forward. Immersive experiences, token-gated experiences or tokenized rewards, and Web3 loyalty and rewards. I think all of these actually kind of intersect. But all of this, again, underpinned by first-party data collection. I am almost out of time, so I'm going to speed this up. But we really want to ensure that we're moving away from Web3 being a very campaign-specific initiative to more of a channel within your overall strategy and really leveraging it to connect with consumers. So from key takeaways that I would love to just share with you from the 18 months or so that I've been trying to onboard PepsiCo into this space, remember that we are in the very, very early days, like those videos that I showed at the beginning, like where social media was in the 2000s. Right now, I think, is the best time to just lean in and learn. There are some amazing podcasts out there, some amazing books, blogs, Substacks that you can get your hands on to just immerse yourself and understand. Maybe get some crypto, maybe not too much, maybe focus on ETH right now. It doesn't seem to have the issues that some of the other ones are having. But go into OpenSea or other marketplaces and explore. If there's a project you like, then maybe get an NFT and really understand how it works. Join a Discord, lean into that space and learn from there. What I have been so appreciative of is within this space, I feel like everybody wants everyone to succeed. And we know that the only way that we're going to succeed is if we see more and more and more people come into the space and more big brands like PepsiCo help drive that. I like to say, like, rising tides lift all ships. And so I firmly believe that, which is why I want to talk to everyone and really see how can you take my pain and make it into like helpful efforts for you. Educate your organization and especially your cross-functional partners. Education is key to really driving ongoing efforts here. Partner with your legal team and early in the project as possible. Identify your rabbit team. Like I said, there's probably a bunch of people in your organization already that would love to be able to do something with you. And then prioritize the use cases that you see to help address your business challenges or objectives, and run pilots. And I'm not saying big, expensive pilots. The pilots that we're running are not big, expensive pilots. They are small efforts for us to test and learn. The best KPI for us is, did we learn something that we can take to the next project and optimize our efforts and continue to grow, because that's what we need to be successful. And I took this quote from Chris Dixon, who's from Anderson Horowitz, and I think it's just timely. I feel like this was actually from almost a year and a half ago, but I feel like it's still timely. That is a pull off of a Gandhi quote, or maybe a Gandhi quote. I think there's debate on that. But we are here. They're fighting us, but we're hoping for some regulation, and hopefully we will win in the long term. So thank you.
Can I get my mic on? There we go. Do we have any questions for Kate? Yes.
Kate, Nick with Web3 Earth, wonderful presentation, by the way. Wanted to ask, in all of your drops and all the mints that you've been doing, how have you established provenance or authenticity of the source of your NFTs?
It's a great question that we're still working through. We actually still don't have our own custodial wallet, but that's something that we know to drive that authenticity we need to have. So we have been leveraging the same third-party partners for it to have that consistency. If you were to see the collection, you would see them combined from a PepsiCo grouping. But I think that's something that it is a prioritization of ours to establish a custodial wallet.
Other questions? All right, we'll give her another round of applause. Thank you, Kate.